We've seen that La Raza has been traditionally inactive in politics, and only a few Mexican Americans were elected to public office. However, in the early years of the 20th century, some people began to see that Mexican Americans are a homogeneous group. Some of its members have been completely assimilated and identify with the goals and aspirations of Anglo society. Others are completely Mexican and identify entirely with the Hispano-Mexican values and traditions. There are varying degrees in between. But whatever the case, every member of La Raza is an individual. The Mexican American is proud of his individualism, and thus he doesn't accept readily the discipline of a political party. To be sure, various unifying organizations have been formed. Most of the early attempts failed, but the successful organizations have contributed significantly to the political development of La Raza. The League of United Latin American Citizens, or LULAC, is one such group. It was founded at Harlingen, Texas in August 1924. In truth, LULAC is not a political organization. With a motto of all for one and one for all, its program is a social one. Among its many activities, LULAC provides scholarships for Mexican American students, supports Spanish programs and children's athletic programs in the schools. LULAC also acts as a job placement center, helping to find employment for Mexican Americans and open up new job opportunities. The League of United Latin American Citizens was the first attempt of Mexican Americans to organize. Although it encountered many difficulties in its first years, the fact that LULAC has continued is evidence of its ultimate success. For many years, it was the only effective organization. Then came World War II, a turning point for La Raza, a time during which more and more Mexican Americans became politically aware and began to assert their political rights. Some activities occurred during the war. In 1942, the Office of the Coordinator of Inter-American Affairs under Nelson Rockefeller established a Spanish-speaking Peoples Division. It was generally ineffective, concentrating much of its effort on such superficial functions as parades and fiestas. These events romanticized the Spanish heritage of the borderlands and had little, if any, meaning for most Mexican Americans. The parades depicted a way of life which had never existed for any but a few rich settlers of the past. Thus, many Mexican Americans feel that the Office of the Coordinator of Inter-American Affairs failed in its purpose of preparing La Raza for participation in Anglo society. But the organization had at least one successful program. During the war, it fostered a series of so-called service clubs. This represents a significant development in the search for unity within La Raza. In Colorado, they merged into the Community Service Clubs Incorporated. Among their main purposes were the fight against discrimination and the election of people who would help Mexican Americans achieve their goals. Service club members studied the issues and advised people depending on how these issues related to basic needs. World War II had far more significant effects. Thousands of Mexican Americans served in the armed forces, and they fought bravely in places like Bataan, Okinawa, Normandy. But more important, they lived and worked side by side with thousands of other Americans, and for many it was the first experience at life free of discrimination and prejudice. Mexican American soldiers returned to the United States with new self-confidence, fresh interest in community affairs. They used the GI Bill to pursue their education, to buy homes, and they sought new employment opportunities. But above all, they experienced a new political awakening. They developed a lively interest in voting, a determination to assert their political rights. They realized they could use political power as a means of gaining recognition for all Mexican Americans. As a result of the awakening, many organizations have been formed. As in any young and developing movement, such as the early trade unions of the 19th century, only a few survived. Why do they fail? Well, part of it has to do with the strong individualism of most Mexican Americans. Many of the organizations lack strength because their members can't agree on a choice of leaders or policy. Then, too, many Mexican Americans are suspicious of politics, for in their experience and that of their parents, politicians have treated them unfairly, and therefore they will not support political groups with cash contributions. The organizations lack the funds to support candidates for office. Most of the organizations have chosen to be nonpartisan. Those formed after World War II wouldn't commit themselves to either party, although most of the members were Democrats. And many groups failed because of this lack of commitment. Of course, some did thrive. The American GI Forum is one that has survived. It was among the first post-war organizations. The leading founder of the GI Forum was Dr. Hector Garcia of Corpus Christi, Texas. Composed of veterans and their families, the GI Forum is a national service organization. Nonpartisan in nature, the Forum does study political issues and works to get Mexican American voters to the polls. One purpose of the GI Forum is to gain first-class citizenship for Mexican Americans through education. Another is the protection of Mexican Americans. The GI Forum has tried to interest its members in such cases as school segregation. It's used the courts as a vehicle for winning civil rights for La Raza. In this area, the GI Forum was active even before the civil rights movement of the 1950s. Now, as we've said, most of the organizations have been non-political in nature. True, they have urged Mexican Americans to make themselves heard through the ballot box, but few of them endorse a candidate for office. And because they could not gain the united support of La Raza, few Mexican Americans were able to win elections in past years. But a change is underway. A few perceptive people see politics as a vehicle for winning civil rights. That to win these rights, Mexican American candidates must be elected to office. This can be accomplished only if members of La Raza unite behind their candidates. And so, in the 1960s, Mexican American leaders have begun to establish some organizations oriented toward politics. One of these is the Mexican American Political Association, MAPA. It was founded in California in 1960. Its slogan is Opportunity for All through MAPA. Its program is one of social, economic, and cultural betterment. MAPA carries on voter registration drives and encourages partisan activity on the part of its members. Most important, MAPA supports the appointment and election of Mexican American candidates for public office. A similar and even more intensely partisan group is strong in Texas. It is PASO, the Political Association of Spanish-Speaking Organizations. PASO grew out of the Viva Kennedy clubs of the 1960 presidential election. There are other similar organizations, and these organizations have worked hard for the political unification of La Raza. Their efforts have begun to pay off. Mexican Americans have begun to run for office, and many of these candidates are winning important elections. For instance, Edward Roybal of Los Angeles was elected to serve in the House of Representatives in 1962. For the first time in the city's history, Mexican American voters united. Their strength at the polls helped elect Roybal in spite of the political division of city districts that had always before assured the victory of Anglo-American candidates. The following year, La Raza experienced another major political victory. Juan Cornejo was elected mayor of Crystal City, Texas, the first Mexican-American mayor the city had ever had. For although 75% of Crystal City's population is of Mexican descent, it had always been governed by Anglos. Juan Cornejo shared his administration of Crystal City with 4 Mexican-American councilmen, and these men were elected because of the united support of the Mexican-American community, because the majority of the population went to the polls in force. But the election of Mexican-Americans to office is only part of the story. La Raza has discovered that its newfound strength also has an important effect on Anglo-American politicians. Men who run for public office must learn to react to the needs of Mexican Americans, or possibly face defeat at the polls. And so Mexican American voters back the candidates who support their cause, candidates who promise to bring about legislation which will help La Raza. La Raza has shown that it can exert power through political unity. This is only a beginning. There have been many other examples, and there will be many more. For it's the future which will tell the real story of Mexican-American political strength.